Hey, thanks for coming on such short notice.
Hey, thank you for giving me such short notice. But did I tell you I'm also working on a documentary about UFOs?
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
What's it about?
UFOs.
Great.
Yeah.
What does that stand for again?
Unidentified flying objects.
Oh, right. So, Shep, this is my first commercial, I'm a little nervous,
Hey, that makes two of us, counting me. Because I've never done one of these before either, but, how hard can it be?
I thought this was like your expertise, or maybe I'm...
No, what I do really is I make documentary films. That's my first love. Well, actually, before that, it was Susan. Then the documentary films, and I guess now commercials. Hey, because if it's anything like this, I love it.
Hey, what do you think of this tie?
So you have something that's a little less icky?
No.
Mr. Savage, I told the chief of police about it.
You told the police about my tie?
No, about my UFO documentary. I begged the chief to set up an emergency evacuation plan for the town. But no, she wouldn't listen to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to you. What do you think of this wig?
Look, I've got the statistics to prove all of my so-called wild, irresponsible, harebrained UFO theories.
Statistics?
That's right.
By statistics, do you mean numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Big scientific numbers?
Oh, yeah, with charts and graphs.
With charts and graphs?
Yep, in color.
Yep, in color? Wow. And the chief of police still wouldn't listen to you?
No.
This is an outrage. It's more than an outrage. It's
a big outrage.
Yeah, it's a big outrage. Shep, I'll tell you what we're going to do.
What?
We're going to bring the chief of police to science court and charge her for failure to properly respond to a UFO crisis.
Okay, Chief, here's the bottom line. Shep Sherman says he has statistics to prove in science court that you're endangering this town by ignoring the threat of a UFO invasion.
Well, that's right.
Oh.
Do you believe in UFOs, Chief Chan? Well, it wouldn't surprise me if something were out there. Really?
But, Chief, you don't think a UFO invasion is really possible, do you?
Look, Miss Kremple, I don't know if there are UFOs out there or little green men. But what I do know is that Shep Sherman is wrong.
And how do you know that?
I looked at the statistics he sent me. They're all bogus.
I'm afraid we're going to have to prove that in science court.
Good morning. I'm Jen Betters reporting live from Science Court, where science is the law and scientific thinking rules. Today we have a case that is out of this world.
She could be one of them.
An alien?
Yeah, well, who do you think she's talking to?
All rise. If you're from another planet, that just means stand up. It doesn't mean float around the room.
Fred. Good morning, and let's get right to it. Opening statements. Mr. Savage, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Your Honor. We intend to show that Chief Chan is violating her duty to protect and serve the people of this town by ignoring scientific statistics and not preparing for a UFO invasion.
Okay. Ms. Kremple?
Thank you. My client, Police Chief Lois Chan, is acting the way any good, rational police chief would act. Because, as we will prove, the statistics Mr. Savage and Mr. Sherman are using are bogus, inaccurate, and completely misleading.
Statistics don't lie.
But they don't always tell the whole truth either.
Whose side are you on?
Nobody's.
Mr. Savage, call your first witness.
I call Shep Sherman to the stand. Shep, please tell this courtroom why you are so upset.
I'm upset because Chief Chan has ignored my warnings of an all-out UFO invasion.
Didn't you hear what the man said?
I thought he was only kidding.
He's kidding.
No, he's serious. That's better. Now, Shep, why do you believe this?
Well, because I have scientific data.
Data? Wow, sounds official. What is data?
Well, data is the scientific word for information collected during an investigation.
Wow, sounds pretty scientific. So what data have you uncovered in your investigation?
Well, I discovered that there is a rise in the number of left-handed people living in this area.
What does that have to do with UFOs?
Should we tell her?
Mr. Savage, tell us.
Oh, okay. Shep?
Look, it started last year when I was looking at some statistics, numbers, graphs. It's sort of a hobby of mine, a hobby.
Wow, hobby.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty official.
Well, you see, late one night, I was looking at a chart of the number of UFO sightings over the last 100 years. There was something curious about these numbers. pattern.
A pattern? Sounds pretty official, too.
Well, it reminded me of something else. A chart with a similar pattern that I had seen before.
And what chart was that?
It was the one that showed how the number of left-handed people in the area has grown over the last 100 years. And that's when it hit me.
What hit you, Shep? A UFO?
No, a connection. The left-handed people chart and the UFO sightings chart had similar patterns. Too similar, if you know what I mean.
I thank you for your courage, Shep. And humanity thanks you. No more questions?
Does the defense have any questions?
May I?
Please.
Mr. Sherman, is this the first time you ever filed a warning with the police about a UFO invasion?
No, this is about the 50th warning. I believe I hold the record, but this is the first time the numbers back me up.
Thank you. No more questions.
Are you sure, Tim? I mean,
Then I'd like to call Dr. Numeroni to the stand. Dr. Numeroni, please tell the court what you have here.
Well, I've graphed the data collected by Mr. Sherman.
Graphed it? Wow, that sounds gross.
Actually, it's very official.
Oh.
A graph is one way to analyze data. It helps you make comparisons. This graph shows the number of UFO sightings over the years. This other one shows the number of left-handed people over the years.
Okay, so if you have two graphs of different data, and each shows the data changing in exactly the same way over time, doesn't that tell us that the two are connected somehow?
Well, maybe not.
I'll take that first, maybe.
There can be what is called a connection, if you will, a link, a tie-in, a relationship.
Doctor?
A hookup, a bridge.
Shh.
Objection. Just because two variables grow at the same rate doesn't mean they must be connected.
Objection.
You can't object to her objection.
But I didn't like it, and I don't know what a variable is.
A variable is something that changes, like the number of left-handed people or the number of UFO sightings.
But, Doctor, numbers can be misleading. Isn't that true?
Well, yes, you can have two variables that change in exactly the same way, but sometimes it's common sense that tells you whether or not they're related. Whether or not a change in one actually causes a change in the other. For instance, the increase in the number of cigarette smokers has the same shape as the increase in lung disease over time.
So what do you think about left-handed people and UFO sightings?
Unrelated, unconnected, if you will, non-bridged, a non-linkage, perhaps an unlinkability.
Your Honor, I'd like to take a minute while I talk to my client.
Okay, good idea. We'll take a brief recess while everybody thinks about the left-handed people and the UFOs.
Maybe left-handed people and UFOs are related. Maybe not. Is there another explanation for why the graphs look the same? Let's hear what you, our courtside commentators, think.
Order. Okay, Mr. Savage, continue.
Thank you. Dr. Numeroni, how would you explain this suspicious and identical rise both in left-handed people and in UFO sightings? Take your time.
Well, that's easy. The population in this area has been growing steadily over the last 100 years. As the population grows, you have more people who might report seeing UFOs.
Yeah, but where did all the lefties come from?
Well, with more people, you will also have more lefties, as you call them.
But UFO sightings and lefties might be connected in some important and fascinating way.
But probably not.
Your Honor, I'd like to call Shep Sherman back to the stand.
Fine.
Shep, so far we have showed that the increase in left-handed people might have something to do with the increase in UFO sightings.
But it probably doesn't.
But it might.
But it probably doesn't.
Children, do we need a timeout?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Savage?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, continue.
What leads you to think there will be an invasion?
Well, because look, there's been a recent sudden, unbelievably huge increase in the number of left-handed people in the area.
I knew it should have been a righty.
You see my point? That lots more lefties, lots more UFO sightings. You put two and two together. More UFO sightings means more UFOs. All those UFOs got to land somewhere. That to me spells invasion.
Objection, Your Honor. This is absurd. May I interrupt and put a stop to this?
No, it's kind of fun.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Shep, how did you find out that there's an unbelievably huge boom of lefties in this area?
Unbelievable is right.
Well, I did my own survey of the entire area to count people.
Survey? Sounds official. So, did you talk to everyone?
Of course not. That's not how it works.
Not how what works?
The random sample. You see, instead of interviewing everybody, which would take a really long time, you interview what's called a random sample of people, which doesn't take so long.
Wow, that sounds
very official, we know.
Well, it does. So, Shep, what did this random sample of people tell you?
Well, it told me that we have a slew of southpaws.
What's a southclaw?
People who are left-handed.
Oh.
Thank you. No more questions.
Amazing. A random sample. That does sound official, but is it a good way to gather data? Or is Doug Savage heading down another wrong path? Let's take a quick break to hear what you, our courtside commentators, think.
Your Honor, I'd like to call a statistics expert to the stand, Dr. Amy Krupp. Dr. Krupp, let's talk about the supposed explosion of lefties. Is using a random sample a fair way to do something like count left-handed people?
Oh, yes, that is a very common way of collecting data of this type.
We're winning! Oh, sorry.
Anyway, interviewing people is a way to collect data, but you can't talk to every single person, so you estimate with a
smaller sample of people?
That's right.
It's amazing that such a system is accurate.
Oh, it works. If you have a good cross-section of people, your sample size doesn't have to be huge.
Okay, let's take a look at the size of Shep's survey sample. He interviewed a total of 3 people.
Just 3. Yeah, actually, there was a misprint. There was only 2 people.
2 people?
Well, Shep, what did your huge sample of people say?
One person said they were left-handed, and the other person said they were right-handed.
And from this data, what did you conclude?
Well, I learned that half of my sample, that's 50%, was left-handed. So I assumed that half of everyone in the area was also left-handed, which would mean that thousands of people were left-handed. That's an explosion.
Thank you, Shep.
Boom.
Now, Dr. Krupp, what do you think of Shep Sherman's sample size?
It's too small. Way too small. Way, 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 way too small.
What is she trying to say?
Let me demonstrate the need for a bigger sample. I have a big bag of jelly beans here. There's about 100 in here. Mr. Stenographer, will you reach in without looking and pick out 2 jelly beans?
Look good.
No, don't eat them. Not yet. Do it again, please. Good. Let's see what colors you have.
I got a red and a yellow.
Okay, now would you say that half the jelly beans in the bag are red and the other half yellow?
No, I couldn't tell by just looking at 2 of them.
Exactly. A sample of 2 jelly beans is too small.
No further questions, Dr. Krupp. Thank you.
Your Honor, I've just had a conference with my client, and we admit that maybe Shep's sample wasn't quite big enough.
It was way too small.
But we're not giving up, because we've got even more compelling evidence. I call Shep Sherman to the stand.
Again?
Shep, truth be told, this case isn't really about left-handed people anyway, is it?
No, it's not.
And it's not about the jelly beans either, is it?
It isn't?
Nope. And it's not about being logical nor reasonable.
Right. It isn't?
No, it's about fear. And that's why I call Chief Chan to the stand.
Technically, Shep, I'm the lawyer, so I call people to the stand.
And that's why you call Chief Chan to the stand.
Chief Chan, what is job number 1 for you as the chief of police?
To protect and serve.
Right. But you ignored vital information that threatens this community, didn't you?
Nope.
What if I told you that the entire town is, as we speak, terrified about a UFO invasion?
Well, I'd say that's news to me.
Well, here's a little headline for you, Missy. Your Honor, I submit this report and this videotape as Exhibits C and D.
Why isn't it A and B?
Didn't I use A and B already?
No.
Uh-oh. Maybe there was some other evidence I was supposed to submit.
May I see it, please, Mr. Savage? I'd like to run it by my expert witness.
Be my guest. This survey was performed by a professional data collector, Skippy the Data Guy. It has a really big sample, and it shows that everyone is terrified about a UFO invasion.
I'd like to call Professor Parsons to the stand and ask him to evaluate this data.
Fine with me?
Greetings, Earthlings. I am Parsnor from the planet Smarty.
In your professional opinion as an educator, what do you think of this report?
Well, first I'd like to make 2 key points on what a good statistical study should be.
Okay.
Point 1. The sample of people interviewed must be random, i.e. a fair, nicely jumbled up selection of all the people in the area.
Why is that, Professor?
Well, since one can't interview everyone in a study, one has to be mathematically even.
So did Skippy interview enough people, or was his sample way too small like Shep's?
Well, he did have a big enough sample.
Oh, this is pretty.
You have a question, Doug?
No, put your hand up so I can slap it.
Why?
Because we're happy.
Oh, okay.
Ouch.
But
But?
the big sample doesn't matter because it wasn't very random.
Huh?
Well, Skippy only interviewed people walking out of a science fiction convention.
But that's because Skippy was going there anyway.
Yeah, but it wasn't random. That's why we shuffle a deck of cards before playing a game. Gotta be random. Mix them up.
But these were all different people.
What is Professor Parsons getting at? Doug certainly doesn't seem to know. How about you? Courtside commentators, let's hear your thoughts.
Okay, look. If you wanted to see if baseball was more popular than knitting, you wouldn't interview people only at a baseball game, right?
Well, I guess not.
Point 2. The questions on a survey must be carefully written so as not to make people answer in a certain way.
Why not?
Well, because you won't get accurate results.
I see. And how carefully written were Skippy's questions?
Not very.
Let's take a look at Skippy conducting a survey.
Rate how terrified you are of a UFO invasion from 8 to 10, where 10 means you are very terrified, 9 means you're too terrified to pick the number 10, and 8 means you didn't hear the question.
Everyone answered with either a 9 or a 10. Now, Skippy was clearly leading that woman to answer the question in a certain way. Do you see? I do.
Because Skippy believes it.
Exactly. Whoever is conducting the survey must be careful to hide his or her bias.
Bias what?
Bias. B-I-A-S.
He means their personal opinion.
Oh.
That's right. Everyone has an opinion, but you can't let that interfere with a good survey.
So, would you call this a valid survey?
No, I would not.
Thank you, Professor Parsons.
Call me Parsnor. There I go again with the alien voice.
I'm ready for closing arguments, Your Honor.
Mr. Savage, are you ready for closing arguments?
Ready. Can I have a few minutes?
Sure. We'll let Miss Crimple go first.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the statistics used against Chief Chan have been faulty in every way. Shep Sherman had a hypothesis that aliens are going to invade us.
A what?
A hypothesis. It's a possible explanation for something that happens.
Oh.
Shep collected and analyzed data to see if he was right. He concluded he was. However, all of his data collection and analysis were flawed. He used a random sample that was too small, then one that wasn't random. And on top of that, he asked biased questions. Numbers and surveys, they can tell us a lot when they're honest and fair, but sometimes they're not. Check the size of a sample and the way it was picked. Do the questions seem fair? Did the people seem tricked?
Every day with more statistics showing up in the news, you will see pretty graphs and fancy charts to amuse you. But how is all the information found and then collected? Look out for fancy numbers that are unconnected. Every day with more statistics showing up in the news, you will see pretty graphs and fancy charts to amuse you. But how is all the information found and then collected? Look out for fancy numbers that are unconnected.
That's nice.
You gotta admit it's a catchy tune.
Mr. Savage, do you still want to give your closing argument?
Sure.
Well, good for you. Shows guts.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Chief Chan shouldn't be here in court. She should be out there, protecting us from a UFO invasion. Thank you. Oh, plus, Chief Chan is left-handed.
No, I'm not.
You're not?
Nope.
Oh, it looked like you were left-handed from where I was sitting. Oh, wait, that's my left, your right.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. You didn't let me down. Jury, you must now decide if Chief Chan is guilty of not preparing this town for a UFO invasion. Good luck.
Well, there goes the jury. It doesn't look good for Doug Savage's case, as Allison Krempel meticulously picked apart his evidence of a UFO invasion. But let's hear what you, our courtside commentators, predict about the verdict.
She's definitely one of them.
Here comes the jury. Let's get back into the courtroom to hear their verdict.
The jury has reached a verdict.
Boy, they seem to be getting faster every day.
Jury, what say ye?
Who?
Ye. You. It's Old English. Never mind. So, anyway, I understand you have a verdict?
Yeah, not guilty.
That's the verdict?
Yes, she said not guilty.
That's right. We find Chief Chan not guilty of ignoring a UFO threat and putting the town in danger. None of the evidence presented by Mr. Savage was collected or analyzed properly.
That it, jury?
That's it.
Great. Science Court is an alien.
Science Court is a what?
I'm kidding. Science Court is adjourned.
Oh, hee.
I'm with attorney Doug Savage. Doug, what do you think of the trial?
Well, I think the defense made some excellent points, especially since they turned out to be right about everything.
Thank you.
It's worse than we thought. Ew.